Hey, gang. Thanks for watching today. While Jane and I were recording, we talked about an event that begins this week at Studio B. She mentioned that tomorrow, Tuesday the 23rd, she will be there all day. To be clear, that is for intake of artwork, where she and Susan Bebeck will be taking in the art for the event that begins. Friday, from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., Earth and Climate begins, and the awards will be given out at that time. It'll also be available on Facebook Live. For more information, go to Studio BBB, that's 3Bs, studiobbb.org. Thanks. Enjoy the episodes. Because
Okay.
I'll talk about it
All right.
later.
I just wanted to ask you that before we, kind of started recording. How exciting that some of the shows on your station are now in syndication. Talk about that a little bit. That's pretty exciting. I mean, how long have you been doing this? Like, not very long.
August, end of
And
August. Really, I usually tell people September.
wow. So you must feel
Yeah.
pretty like a pretty proud daddy. How's that? Does that work?
Yeah, well, there's actually a bunch of reasons why I'm really happy with the whole deal.
Talk about it.
One is, as you just mentioned, we're only doing this for September, October, November, December, 4.5 months,
Hmm.
and already we've got some of our on-air talent going to other, and he's got another one since then. I'll tell you about. So, shout
Wonderful.
out to Glen Sportcat Jackson. He is in the Atlanta suburbs,
Hmm.
and forget about all the benefits that hit for Yergz Radio. I don't think I'm centered here. There we go. Forget about all the benefits that are for Yergz Radio. I'm never going to stop anybody from improving whatever they're doing with this project. Because remember, rule number one for everybody is that this is going to be fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if he messaged me last week and said, I need to talk to you. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be either really good or really bad. Um,
That's in
yeah,
a marriage.
because I got that for
We have to
I
talk.
got that type of request for 21 years in the Secret Service, and it was not usually good.
Right.
Um,
It never is.
uh, so we start talking, and he says, I've been approached by this producer from a local radio station. He's in Atlanta, and the station is we'll just say Atlanta, but it's an Atlanta suburb. Like if you're in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Philadelphia market, but your station's actually in King of Prussia,
Right, right, right.
that kind of thing. And they want to take our show and put it on that Atlanta station. It's WDJY 91.1 FM in Atlanta, in this Atlanta suburb, whatever the hell it is. And then she mentioned about putting it on sister stations throughout the country.
Wow.
And one of the things that was really exciting for me was the first one she mentioned was outside Washington, D.C., in Fairfax, Virginia.
Hmm.
Well, that's
Wow.
where I'm from.
Right.
Like, how can I stop him from taking his show back to his hometown when here you and I sit with a podcast about our hometown? And but the thing about that is he was running that by me first. Like, if I had an objection to it, he wouldn't have done it.
Wow. Well, was it maybe he was
And
concerned with
I'm
some
like,
kind of copyright law or whatever?
no, he is the one who has been thanking me
That's wonderful.
probably twice a month
Wonderful.
for what I've been doing for both. He has two shows, and they're both getting picked up, and actually is now as a third one,
Okay,
and that's
well,
the one
let's
that got him picked up again.
okay, so name his shows. Let's give a shout out.
Oh yeah. So the Wednesday night live show that's also repeated on Yergz Radio is the Para or Normal
Normal.
Guys. So
Hmm.
it's a play on the word paranormal,
Hmm.
but it's three words: para
Hmm.
or
Or,
normal,
right.
and it's about paranormal stuff. But it's also about, and he was actually going to cut this part out. It's also about entertainment. Sometimes he talks about Bigfoot, sometimes he talks about somebody's movie. But then
Ah.
he'll also, like, if he had you on to talk about Be Inspired podcast or Studio
Hmm.
B
Yeah,
or
yeah,
The Expression, you talk about that, and the
yeah.
whole show would be about that. But then at the end of your segment,
Hmm.
he would ask you to tell a moment in your life from the paranormal, like if you've
Wow.
had any experiences.
Well, we
And
talked
that's
about
kind
that
of the
last
thing
time,
is that,
right?
yeah, yeah. So that's kind of the thing is that he's going to give you that heads up,
Hmm.
and you'll have that ready
Hmm.
for when you come on.
Right.
Um, but he just has some like big director of some. I forget which one it was, but Wednesday's guest, both of them were pretty big deals. And then I'm a guest on his newest show, which airs live on Fridays. It's about. Do you know what a challenge coin is?
No.
So a
Unless you're
challenge coin
talking
for
about something like John Wick and whatever coins they give each other there. I don't know what a challenge coin is.
yeah, kind of, sorta,
Any
actually.
sort of?
The challenge coin concept was started by the Sons of Liberty back during the American Revolution.
Okay.
And the way that they would always be able to tell each other was a member of the Sons of Liberty
Okay.
was they would have this counterfeited coin in their pocket.
Okay.
And if you and I were at a bar and we wanted to begin talking about something, a raid we're going to do on the British,
Okay.
I wouldn't talk to you
Unless.
unless you had that coin.
Yeah. Yep.
And so now today, uh it's like, what was that one movie and book? Do you remember the Scarlet Pimpernel or something like that?
Yes. Yeah, I don't know very much
He had a
about it, but
ring. He had a ring that identified him, and it could turn, like the diamond part was on a hinge, and it
yeah.
could turn to something else, so he could hide his identity. Um, but it's kind of the same thing. But so now today, what people do, organizations do, like I got one right here. This is Glen's challenge coin.
Okay.
And for those at home, I'll put this on the video. I'll do a cutout of this on the video.
Okay.
It's two sided. That's a skull with headphones on, and it says Para or Normal Guys, and that's Bigfoot.
Very cool.
There we go. A
I
little
see
bit
it.
better.
Yep.
That's Glenn's challenge coin. He sent that to me in the mail. So that's something I want to try to get something like that stuff. But they're like to make them. They're like $25 a piece.
Yeah.
And so that's an expensive coin.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think the only one that's more expensive than that is Bitcoin. Um,
Oh God. Well, that's another
but
story.
yeah.
And their third
So
show?
paranormal,
Okay.
and one of the things he was going to drop was that entertainment side of it. And he was just going to keep it strict paranormal. That's the title of the show, and just
Hmm.
ghost stories essentially. And this producer lady like, no, I like that you take that
Hmm.
angle because we have other, and that's something that's really taken off. The Travel Channel on cable TV has
Hmm.
become the ghost channel. That's all they talk about. They don't talk about
Ghost?
traveling. Yeah, it's ghost show after ghost show after ghost show. And they
Okay.
don't, I have a friend who had a show on that. In fact, he was a consultant for me for a while. Anthony Melchiori had the show Hotel Impossible. He would travel the country and actually the world and fix hotels that were struggling. And then he, redo one of the bedrooms and something that was cheap but still efficient, and a good looking renovation. And that's something that they could replicate, in piecemeal, if necessary, to redo their entire property. All those shows are gone. All the cooking shows from
Wow.
around the country are gone. They're all
You're
ghost shows.
kidding.
And I'm like, if it's that popular, start another network.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
it seems to me,
But anyway,
that folks are looking to understand what what
I'm
it's all
still here.
about, Alfie. What it's all about, Alfie. Looking to
Yeah.
understand, or looking to recognize that, the reality we are in today may not be all there is. And it
Right.
would appear to me that there's a real strong need to escape this particular reality, which I certainly understand. So,
Yeah.
anyway, yeah,
So anyway, she actually likes that part. So now he's keeping that in.
okay.
And then there's the Friday night show that I'm going to be a guest on because I've got some Secret Service Challenge coins. And when he came to me about that, uh, I'm like, how are you going to, because a lot of the stuff he does is like you and me now. He actually streams video at the same time. And that's probably where most of his viewers or fans are, is through the video concept that he had been doing for a while. But I said, challenge coins, how are you going to put that on radio? And so this past Friday, I listened to an episode, and it's the one guy that's on there with him is like an EMT, I think, or something. As they're going through coins, the guy keeps talking, and it's a good description of the different coins. And I guess he would be good at that because he's a guy that makes them
Oh,
and
wow.
designs coins for all kinds of companies and law enforcement agencies. And he's got the golden gun from the James Bond movie. He's got a coin after that. He's got it looks kind of like a belt buckle, but he's got
Mhm.
a Batman coin, and the
Yeah,
wings come apart, and there's another,
yeah.
something else inside of it that Batman related, whatever. It's pretty amazing stuff.
Hmm.
So he was doing that show, and there was another online radio station that he had just like reached out to, said, hey, listen to our show tonight. And the reason that he did that one was because it's all done, that station is all done by first responders, police, military, fire, EMS,
Wow.
dispatchers. Everybody on that station is a first responder,
Huh.
and also into rock music, and whatever else. So they're contemplating also carrying the Friday night show, and I hope any of his other shows that he's got.
Wow.
And then Saturday night is another live show that he does called the Misfits. It's
Okay.
just a bunch. It's like you and me right here, just the two of us sitting here talking.
Really?
Theirs is a little bit more adult oriented.
Wow.
Um, and it's really fitting because when they were trying to name the show, um, it was going to be Sportcat and something, and they didn't know what. And
Hmm.
one of the guys goes, "Well, we're just a bunch of misfits, aren't we?"
There
And
you
Glen
go.
goes, "That's the
That's
name."
it. That's
A-
it.
And so yeah, I'm happy about all of that because first and foremost, I'm never going to stop anybody like that from wanting to improve themselves and what they're doing and so on.
Hmm.
Secondly, the FM station said, no, don't cut your relationship with Yergz Radio. In fact, keep it. Because now when he, says, we're on Yergz Radio, he's also going to say he's on
Right.
the FM station,
Right. It's
WDJY.
yeah. It's
My
cross
listeners are going to
pollinating.
hear
Right.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
And their listeners are going to hear me.
Sure. Sure. Well,
So yeah, we'll both have
I'm
that
just
same
waiting
opinion.
for I'm just waiting for I'm just waiting for your particular show
Yeah.
to be
Well,
picked up
okay. So that's
somewhere.
coming.
Yeah.
But the third reason that I'm the happiest about it, and probably the reason why I am the happiest about it for my own selfish reasons, is that the FM station is using the same business model that I created. And I'm not saying that when I say I created, I'm not saying that I did it first.
Right, right,
I'm
right, right.
saying
That you're
without anybody
using.
else's
Yeah,
influence,
yeah,
I
yeah,
said,
yeah.
why don't we do this?
Hmm.
And that's what they're doing. They have like two DJs. That's it. Everybody
Wow.
else is a technician that comes in and runs these shows and just basically presses play and sits there and reads a magazine or on another channel plays music that they like.
Well, yours now, as I understand it, is you don't even have to be there. People who are on your station manage themselves. Am I right?
Yeah, well, that too. Yeah. So the shows are automated for the most
Mm-hmm.
part, with the exception of his three,
Mm-hmm.
my one,
Out
and
the
there's a
middle.
fifth show that's on Sunday afternoons. It's David's show on Sunday afternoons that he does with his wife called This
Okay.
Week in Outrage. And everything else, 24/7, 7 days a week, is automated. It's
Mm-hmm.
replays of Be Inspired. It's
Mm-hmm.
replays of Yergz Tonight, which is the live show that I do. It's replays of Up the Middle. Um, and with the intention, not the requirement, but with the inspiration of you. And I know this isn't realistic for you, but you've come to me with, putting your podcast on the station. You're thinking about maybe doing a live show at some point too. I know, putting that into your schedule yet is going to be, requiring lots of grease, but uh, just
Good
as
luck
an
with that.
example. And David's done it. David Beckmeyer and his wife created This
Yeah.
Week in Outrage.
Yeah.
One of the guys from the Misfits had another Sunday night show, but it was back when, and this I know is what you were getting to, it was back when I had to sit here and babysit every live
Mm-hmm.
show.
Right.
The radio host that we had at the time didn't allow for multiple employees to be on
Right.
the account. It was just one person.
Mm-hmm.
And so I couldn't give my credentials, my login stuff to anybody else because it would be risking of not necessarily them stealing the station as
Mm-hmm.
much as them something I've done plenty times broadcasting
Mm-hmm.
and think that you've switched it over to the automated system and you left it live
Mm-hmm.
and now you're just sitting there with dead air.
Mm-hmm.
And while being a small station, that might not be too big of a deal because there might not be as many listeners. It's a
Right.
big deal when the next live guy comes on and can't get on the air.
Right.
And
Right.
now
Right.
you're at the mall and doing whatever and or at the beach or
Right.
something like that and we can't
And
get our
nothing's
station back.
happening. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Well, I
now
just
we're on a
wanted.
new host.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, now we're on a new host where it's much more tech savvy. I can shut anybody off from here if I need to and regain control of the station. They don't have as much authority as I do, that kind of thing. So I want to bring that guy back. He had a Bigfoot show as well that he still does. He's just not on
Mm-hmm.
Yergz Radio. But the first responders, they're up in the Ohio, I think, and they don't know that was in the Secret Service. I just they just knew about Yergz Radio. So
Mm-hmm.
he thinks that once they know that I'm also was a first responder, they're
Mm-hmm.
going to want to work with me directly too,
Right.
possibly.
Right. And
Um,
and mine your connections and mine your experiences as well. Sounds great.
yeah,
Well, I expect
yeah.
David and his wife. I expect them to be syndicated any day now.
Oh yeah, yeah. Maybe not that one because it's a little less. He'll say it's a little bit more, a little less researched, a little less chill. It's a little more chill. It's a little less
Right. I hear
um,
you.
official or professional or whatever.
Yep.
But I've been saying, and I still say that outrage overload is a must for anybody in journalism, for anybody in politics, for anybody in the public eye, for anybody that's on social media, and has gotten like I have has gotten in their share of Facebook fights.
Hmm.
He really has helped me. It's probably prevented me from having a stroke at some point. because just his teachings are like, do you really think you're going to change somebody's mind?
Mhm.
And that's what I was originally getting into uh, these
Mhm.
discussions for, because I thought it was just going to be a discussion.
Mhm.
And then seconds later, we're mother effing everybody, each other.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I've what was disappointing for me was I've got citations, I've got statistics, I've got
Mhm.
facts
Mhm.
that the Trump side didn't.
Mhm.
Wouldn't you like welcome in actual intelligent information?
I'm telling you, they're not looking to be
And you're
informed.
absolutely right. So is David.
They're
Yeah.
looking to fight. They're looking to be
Yeah.
entertained, and there's no getting around it. One of the things, I don't know if I mentioned this on a previous show, but one of the things I run into in talking about talking, all right, and talking
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
talking with people with whom you don't disagree, it's many times we get defensive when someone challenges our ideas and so forth. And so it was recommended, and I really wish I could remember where I got this suggestion, was to learn to not confront, but to learn to talk with people with whom you disagree when you want to disagree with what they have saying. Instead of, getting defensive, learn to talk to them as if you are ordering a cheeseburger without mayonnaise.
Yeah.
Isn't that great? I mean,
Yeah.
it's so non-defensive. Please just make sure there's no mayonnaise on my cheeseburger. And if you're talking about something highly inflammatory, to be able to assume that attitude, that mode, that tone, that's a real challenge. And I think really very helpful. So I've kept that in mind. Not that I've been in any confrontational conversations recently, but I that tickled my brain, that suggestion, and I'm equally interested in sharing it with other people who do talk to people with whom they disagree. Anyway, so
Yeah.
congratulations to you as the
Thank you.
station owner for the success that your people are just beginning
Thank you.
to put their tiptoes into. I mean, I think that says so much for what you're doing. So there. But you said in text message to me that there's so much to talk about. So it was there beyond that other
I
things that
can't
happened
remember
to you
most
this
of it.
week that you want to, you don't
I
remember.
can't remember most of it. And
Okay.
this is the one time I didn't write it down either.
Oh
The
gosh.
one thing, um, I am thinking about, and I want to kind of put this out to everybody so
Okay.
that anybody with any interest in it, can give some input. I'm
Hmm.
thinking about rebranding Yergz Tonight. That's the Monday through Friday radio show
Hmm.
that also turned into a podcast for on YouTube and whatever, but is more importantly live on Yergz Radio, because it's at five. And you're not to give it a shameless plug, but the point of it being it's at 5 p.m. Eastern
Hmm.
until 7 p.m. Eastern, roughly. And then on the West Coast and all points west, it's at West Coast. It's at 2 p.m. Eastern. Yergz Tonight
Yeah, right.
at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
So do
And
you have any
before,
thoughts about the new branding?
well, before that takes off, and now I'm stuck with it. I don't have I don't know what all social media I have besides the Facebook page,
Hmm.
which I found out I can change the name of.
Hmm.
So I've been thinking about 2 o'clock in the afternoon is like a late lunch on the West Coast. Yeah, two o'clock in the afternoon on the West Coast is like a late lunch.
Hmm.
5 p.m. on the East Coast begins many happy hours.
Hmm.
So I thought about maybe the late lunch happy hour. And
Why
that
not just
alone, I
happy
think,
hour? Why not just
um,
happy hour?
because because now I'm leaving out the West Coast. It's 2 o'clock
Oh,
isn't a happy hour on the West Coast.
okay. All right.
Brunch is over on a Sunday.
Right, 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 right,
You're
right,
already, Saturdays, you're either already drunk at 2 o'clock or you're just waking up from Friday night.
right, right, right. So, yeah. So we'll think about that, right?
Yeah.
You're not
Yeah.
you're not 100% yet, right? So maybe your
No,
listeners
no.
will have some suggestions about that.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
yeah, I can see your thinking.
definitely welcome that.
Yeah, I can see your thinking.
Definitely welcome that.
Yeah. And I'll
Please.
do some thinking too. Not that I'm very good at this. One of the things about my own journalism is I recognize I am really not a very strong headline writer. So, and, people will come to
Well,
me every now and then and say, hey, I need a snappy one liner or something. And it's like, don't come to me for that. I'm just
in
not
case you
that
need help,
good at it.
I'm glad you mentioned that because that you just reminded me of one of the other things that I wanted to talk about.
Oh, good.
Um, I think I told you I was signing up with this or had signed up with it, but I had not yet done anything with it. This weekend, two sheriff deputies and two fire trucks went screaming past my house.
Whoa.
I live in a dead end neighborhood. It's not
Hmm.
like they're going to somewhere, somewhere else in the county. The only other
Hmm.
place they can go in the county is the Gulf of Mexico. So something was happening in my neighborhood.
Hmm.
So I got in the van and I followed them.
Yeah.
And it turns out it was nothing that big to the neighborhood. Obviously, to the person, to whom they were visiting, um,
Hmm.
it was a big deal. We suspect it was a medical emergency because
Hmm.
moments after they got there, the police cleared, and the
Hmm.
fire truck and the ambulance stayed on scene, and there were no visible flames.
Hmm.
So that was my first story in newsbreak.com. Was I put this sleepy boat community in Pasco County, was interrupted by screams or whatever, and
Hmm.
that was my first story to be published um, in newsbreak.com, which is a website that helps people focus on local news.
Hmm.
And
Is this
even
new?
though you can do like a national story,
Well, wait a minute.
um,
Your
and it's
involvement in the newsbreak.com, is that new?
oh, so I didn't tell you. So last month I was a part of something, some sort of like a Zoom call or networking type of thing, um, and I met this guy who's also a podcaster and a radio host, who's also a retired police sergeant. I think he's from Baltimore PD. A guy named John Wiley, really helping me with my own stuff here, and I still need. This was almost 2 weeks ago now that we talked, and I still need to send him episodes for him to cross promote for me. Um, but he introduced me to Newsbreak. And I wanted to introduce you and Leslie to it too, because I think it's a way that you might both be able to repurpose some of the things you do for the expression. Granted, like some of the history stuff might not be relevant for because it is like timely news,
Okay.
but anything for like the school district or and uh, the Before I Die wall,
Hmm.
openings for the art gallery,
Gotcha.
things of that nature. And the thing of it is, my second story, you can use artificial intelligence as sources. So I put a story together about the school district turning some of the athletic fields over to artificial turf.
Yeah.
There was already a story on that in Newsbreak.
Wow.
So somebody in Boyertown is reading this website because somebody in California ain't going to do a story on Boyertown.
Hmm.
So, and I didn't see how many that one, but I just pulled up Newsbreak. And keep in mind, both of these articles just went out this weekend.
Hmm.
The police and fire one has been in front of 6,283 people and
Wow.
has been viewed since Saturday 525 times.
Wow.
My artificial turf article has been in front of 3,278 people and has been viewed 164 times and shared 5 times. So somebody shared that story 5 times. Again, it's too and maybe because of things like there was the mention of the um, environmental issues, or
Okay. Sure.
so
Sure.
many field hockey, so many field hockey teams. Like I learned that Boyertown has not had a home game in I don't know how long, because they're like one of the last schools left that plays on
Mhm.
natural turf.
I did not know that. I
And
did not know
so
that either.
every
But
field hockey game is away.
well, now they
How
play
much does that suck?
football. They play football on their home field. Yes.
Yes, and that is from what I understood from the articles that I quoted. I quoted the Mercury, I quoted WFMZ, and I didn't use anything, but I looked at some of the other, like as you and I talked about, the Reading Eagle is the same thing as the Mercury now.
Right. Right.
There's actually other stations and radio stations that had covered it. Um, it doesn't look like it's definite, and this is something that I needed. Was it Jill?
Could be. Hmm.
Um,
Or Donnie
somebody
Savage.
covering the score. Yeah, Donna definitely, or Jill, who's covering the school board, to get better info for me. But it wasn't. It wasn't looking like the football stadium, which is by the way no longer the stadium. They're aluminum bleachers now,
Right.
because that's going to be warm in October and November.
Hmm.
And one of the students said, "Why do they always take the cheap route?
Hmm.
Why does this school district always take the cheap route?"
Hmm.
And but
And
anyway,
yet,
the
and yet, I was at a party a couple of weeks ago where one of the attendees was starting to go on and on about, why doesn't Boyertown take the cheap route? We don't need Taj Mahals. We need cement buildings that just house the kids during the time they are in there for. And it was the third thing that this particular gentleman, the third the third comment he made in the course of about 15 minutes. His other comments were about other topics. One was very misogynistic. Another one I can't remember, but it was the third comment when I finally said, I got to get out of here. And just very abruptly and very pointedly got up and left the table. But it's the Boyertown
yeah,
way. It's the Boyertown
yeah,
way. What can I tell you? And I'm sorry to say that to folks who love Boyertown, and I do, and work hard to bring art and culture and and quality stuff to the community. But it's very, very frugal community, and that's going to be a really hard thing to get away from. Anyway,
yeah.
so turf fields,
You know,
news break.
when Junior High
Interesting.
East was built,
Pardon me?
wasn't that cutting edge? Junior High East,
Yes, it was. It was cutting
like
edge.
those
It was
pits,
not a Taj Mahal in any kind of way, but it was edgy
that are in the middle of the hallway.
in the
Yeah,
philosophy that it was open classrooms. Well, they came to not came to hate that,
yeah,
so that turned out not to be a good thing. So
yeah,
I mean, you got to be a special mind. You got to be a special brand of person in order to be able to make that work really, really well. It
yeah,
seems to me. So it didn't surprise me that they would end up hating it, but they did. They ended up putting up walls. They ended up, you know, doing that kind of thing as opposed to what it was intended to be. So there you go.
Well, anyway.
Anyway, so that's what's news for you this
Your
particular
turn.
week. I have had so much fun all week long. And I just want to, kind of outline what I've done for the week. It's been very quiet around here in my house. We've had snow events several times
Yeah.
this week. And Alexis, she's such a princess. She doesn't like to go out in the wet, when the roads are wet, and certainly not when they're snowy. And so I've been pretty housebound much of the week, which is fine. And what it forced me to do was to go back to all those Be Inspired episodes I had recorded over the past, since October, and turn them into feature articles for expression.
Nice.
So I've listened to those episodes 1 or 2 times more. Yours is one that's sitting there, the one that we did together over Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
It's on my to-do list, but I have listened
But
to
it,
the
it's
episodes once or
you've launched it
twice.
though, right?
Oh yes,
You
oh yeah.
dropped that
The
episode. Yeah.
the episodes are out there, but to
Yeah.
turn them into articles, because
Gotcha.
some of our people prefer, and I'm that way myself. I prefer to read rather than listen to podcasts. And so, what I like to do, because I am so inspired by the people I talk to, I want as many people as possible to get to know these people. And so I turn my podcast episodes into articles. Anyway, so I have spent the last week turning podcast episodes into articles, and I have had the best time getting
Nice.
re-inspired by these
Yeah.
people with whom I've had conversations with. It's just been so much fun. And I gather photographs in many cases, particularly when I'm talking to artists, gather photographs of their art and so forth. But they are now in the Expressions bank of articles to publish whenever Leslie decides that, and it's appropriate time to publish them. But I have had the best time, and I have to tell you, I have put a goal for myself to do one a day, and it takes me all day to listen to the podcast
Really?
once or twice again,
Wow.
to take
Yeah.
notes, and then let it simmer for a while, until I find just an angle that amuses me to introduce or get the whole thing started. So and then it takes me all day to put it together in writing, and rewrite certain portions and go back to the podcast to make sure I have the facts right and so forth. But I have had a really inspiring week of doing that. So that's what my week has been about. And probably the last one I did, the one I did yesterday, was about a tournament that's coming up in Boyertown on February 18th.
This
It's
is
an
Randy.
esports tournament. It's Randy Renninger
Yeah.
and Jake McCoach, who are putting together this Pokemon Go tournament at the YMCA on February 18th, starting at 10 in the morning and running until 7 at night. But re-listening to those particular podcasts that I had with Randy and Jake just blow my mind, because it's so exciting. I mean, I started my article with "never in a million years," because this chick never in a million years would have imagined that gamers or esports players could earn buckets of money by playing video games.
Yeah.
Playing video games. I mean, there was such a stigma, and still is probably, that people my age and even younger hold about video game players, that they sit in their basements, all day long, in sweatpants and ripped t-shirts and play video games and never get outside the house. And what a waste of talent, what a waste of time, because, they assume they'll be living in their mother's basement for the rest of their lives. But talking to and learning from Randy and Jake, that players who do this get so skilled. And Randy, this amuses me. Randy is a 26-year-old guy. He looks 14, and he says that people, confuse him with a ninth grader. But he says, as a 26-year-old, that the young players that he watches playing online, streaming their play and so forth, are just so talented and so much better than he is that they can beat the pants off of him any day of the week. Which, I mean, holy wow. I just am really impressed by that. But like I said, and I said this on you and I in conversation when I introduced you to Randy back in November, what impresses me also is Randy is very much into this Pokemon Go game because it gets people outside. It gets them walking around.
Right.
And the tournaments that they put on, like the one in February, is designed to bring players together face to face because there's been little of that. And, he said he has hundreds of friends that play Team Asylum with him or Pokemon Go with him on his Team Asylum. He has hundreds of friends, but he wouldn't recognize them. He wouldn't know them if they were sitting beside him on a park bench somewhere. And so these tournaments that they put together are designed to bring people together to get people once again face to face, off, not necessarily off their phones, but, in addition to playing the game, getting to know one another a little bit better. And in fact, he told a story about one day he was at a park, and Green Lane Park, he said, and he was sitting there spinning his Pokemon thing or whatever they do. And I don't have the language, and it's really embarrassing that I don't have the language, but I tried to pick it up by listening to the podcast a couple of times. Anyway, I don't have the language. It's going to be an embarrassing article in that regard. I'm telling you up front. But he said he was sitting on this park bench and the guy next to him was doing the same thing. And they apparently got into a conversation for a change. And he learned about the guy's brain surgery and got to know him as a person. And Randy said he really enjoyed that and misses that and hopes that and wants to bring that aspect of the game playing back through these tournaments that he and Jake develop. But Jake was telling me also in another conversation and another podcast with him that has not dropped yet. I waited for that one till closer to the February 18th tournament. But in that podcast episode, he was talking to me about he found, quote unquote, a 14-year-old, I think, a 14-year-old player in Schuylkill County who was really doing very, very well. He was impressed by his talents. And so he got in touch with the kid's father and said, if you take your son to these tournaments where the prize money is a bigger deal than the kinds of tournaments he's participating in now, he could do very, very well because he's very, very talented and the possibility of his earning a lot of money is there. And so now at 18, this kid is a professional game player and is, drawing a hefty salary as a result of doing that. I mean, those kinds of things just amaze me because it's so much, beyond my experience level. It's just, it's great. And I just love the spirit of inclusivity. I appreciate the spirit of accessibility that Randy talks about with his Pokemon Go tournaments and the Team Asylum. In fact, again, just to reiterate some of the things that inspired me from talking to him was he's so very much, he believes in, like he said, it's really good for young minds to be connected, to be part of a team. And not everybody can play basketball. Not everybody can play baseball.
Right.
But, and some people are disabled to some degree or a large degree. And yet they can still be a part of a team in these kinds of ways playing video games. And he said that's really, really important because it's important for human beings to be connected with one another. It's important for us to, to have friends for real. And I just love that. I love the inclusivity. Again, I love the accessibility that these game players can afford one another. And I'm really looking forward to, I've got to get my butt out to the YMCA on February 18th, not only to see what this is all about and take some photos and meet up again with Jake and Randy, but also some of the famous players who are attracted to tournaments like Boyertown will have. Now, Jake couldn't give any names because they weren't yet under contract, but I'm looking forward
Under
to,
contract.
yes,
Under
yes,
contract to play a video game.
yes, to narrate and, and watch
Yeah.
the games. Like I was telling him, my husband watches poker, cable TV poker, and
Right.
I
Yep.
can understand, the narration. I can understand how, things kind of work, and I'm sure it's somewhat the same. Anyway, I want to get out there, and this is just a plug too, and I hope other people go, and they anticipate the possibility of hundreds of people participating in this particular tournament because these kinds of
That's
tournaments
awesome.
attract hundreds of people. Anyway, the tournament is also designed to benefit building a better Boyertown, to sharing, I don't know, the proceeds, part of the proceeds, donation from Team Asylum. I'm not exactly sure what the details are there, but I'm hopeful that this kind of thing attracts a segment of our community that is underserviced.
Yeah.
And, Charles Haddad, the late Charles Haddad, the patriarch of Boyertown, tried so hard over the last 20 years to attract teens to the movie theater, to attract teens to participate in the Building Better Boyertown's festivals and whatnot, and was constantly disappointed that teens would not come out, and yet this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity
Yeah.
he did not see, much like me, did not appreciate, did not understand, whatever. And if it, in fact, serves our younger population, even though Randy and Jake say all kinds of people of all ages from all over the place, not just Boyertown, but New York, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, they expect people from other states to come. Well, I've talked a lot. Sorry. Anyway, I'm
No.
very excited.
No.
I'm very
Yeah.
excited about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both, from what's going on with Yergz Radio and with I know you talked about needing to write the articles actually a couple of
Hmm.
weeks ago,
Yeah.
and maybe even last month. So that's I'm glad to see people checking boxes and getting stuff off the to-do list. I've
Yeah.
got one on the
It's
refrigerator
exciting.
that's
Yeah.
almost bare.
What was
There's
that?
two things I can. I have a to-do list that's on the refrigerator
Hmm.
that I put there because that's the shit that I'm constantly going to the refrigerator.
Right.
So that's the stuff that I gotta be shoving in my face to remind me to
Yeah.
get it done. And there's
Yeah.
two things on there that are pretty easy actually. So that's going to allow me to concentrate on some other things this week. I got
That's
another one
awesome.
here on my desktop that's mostly
Yeah.
radio
Yeah. Yeah.
podcast type stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I got another one on my phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
A lot of
one
things to do.
has
A lot of things to do.
that one has an alarm that goes off twice a day to remind me to look at it.
I should do that because I've got a meeting that occurs once every month and I constantly forget it. So I'm
Yeah.
going to have to in fact, I've said to myself this last week, I've got to put an alarm on my phone so I'll remember. Did I do it? No. Did I make the meeting? No. I forgot until it was good and over. The other thing I want to mention that is current is tomorrow. I will be at Studio B Art Gallery all day with Susan Bebeck, our gallery director, taking in art for a new show that she will
Is this the
hang
environmental one?
throughout this. Yes, it is. Earth and
Yeah, I saw
Climate
that
is
this
what it
morning.
is, and it's our usually our most popular one, most populated one. It's our members renewal show, and we're very excited about it. So it's going to be a busy week, and I won't get any podcast episodes probably um, turned into articles much this week. But that's it.
So,
So,
for everybody listening, that is actually Tuesday the 23rd.
mhm,
I am planning that's a better thing for me is my schedule. I now have time blocked off for immediately after we're done recording today on Monday to get
mhm,
at least the first episode edited so that it can go back to being going out every Tuesday like we first did.
good,
Yeah,
good,
I
good.
put it off till later in the week because I had this, that, and the other thing scheduled, and I'm like, well,
Yep.
why don't I just take the recording session that's on Monday and schedule that for extending it into later in the day,
Hmm.
and instead of calling it the recording session, call it record and edit.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be
Um,
good. And speaking of that, we have been talking now for probably 40 some minutes. So let's call this an
Coming up
episode,
on
shall we?
50. Yes, where can we find you? Besides at Studio B all day tomorrow.
You can find me. You can find Be Inspired Podcast on your favorite podcast platform, including Spotify, which is where it is. It exists, but tons of other places. And of course, Studio B has its own Facebook page and its own website, studiobbb.org. Okay.
Awesome.
And I'm
And
Jane
you
Stahl.
can find and I'm
Oh,
Yergz. You can find me anywhere at that's okay.
there you go.
At yergz.com and yergzradio.com. Yergz is spelled Yergz. And that's it. I'm Yergz.
And I'm Jane Stahl. And this is Both
Both sides now.
Now.